Good afternoon, and welcome to the first presentation in our 55 and Better Virtual Expo series, Lunchtime Conversations, brought to you by the Loveland Reporter-Herald and the Greeley Tribune. My name is Al Manzi. I'm President and CEO for Prairie Mountain Media and also a publisher at the Loveland Reporter-Herald and the Greeley Tribune. Today's session is entitled Understanding Senior Living Options. After today's presentation, I'll host a question and answer session. Feel free to enter your questions anytime during the presentation using the Q&A or chat feature on your device. Today, we are joined by Danita Dixon. She's the founder of Senior Living Advisors, Colorado. Please join me in welcoming Danita Dixon.
Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us today. Give me 1 second when I share our screen. Oops, there we go. All right. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather we're having. We have sunshine, right? Okay.
It's not as nice today, but it's been beautiful.
Good. All right. So just so those of you who have never heard of a senior living advisor, what we do is we provide a free service to older adults and their families. We assist them with safely aging in place or finding the right senior living community that meets their specific needs, desires, and budgets. So before we got started today, I just wanted you to kind of understand what our company does out in the community. So our topic today, as Al said, is senior living options. And our goal is to help folks look at both the short and the long term. And we believe that planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now. A lot of times people don't want to think about the future because, they're afraid of what's out there. But, when you bring it into the, present right now, you can kind of take control of it. And it kind of takes the fear out of the whole process. So that's kind of what we're hoping to accomplish today. So today we'll be covering signs that it might be time for a change, barriers to making a change, senior living options, the big picture, and taking control of the process. So what are the signs that it might be time for a change? Struggling with maintenance and upkeep or cost of maintaining a home. Oftentimes we see older adults that start to struggle with maintaining the family home. That's usually a sign that it's time for a change. Many rooms in the house that aren't being used. Sometimes an older adult has the family home and they're only using the bedroom and the kitchen and maybe the family room. And there's 4 or 5 bedrooms that are not being used in a family, maybe a basement. So maybe the house is too big now. So that's sometimes a sign that it's time for a change. Maybe the house is no longer conducive to aging in place. Maybe there's steps in the home. Maybe the laundry room's in the basement. Maybe the older adult has health issues and needs more assistance in the home. And sometimes an older adult's afraid of needing help and not be able to get it. That's a sign that there might need to be a change. And last but not least, feeling lonely or isolated. Seniors who feel lonely or isolated often need to start looking at doing something different. So what are barriers to making a change from leaving the family home to doing something different? The first one would be unsure of what the options are. That's probably one of the biggest barriers, is a lot of older adults don't know what the choices are. That's one reason that it's good that you're here today. That's one of the barriers to you making a change. A lot of seniors are afraid of making a change. They're afraid of losing their independence, rightfully so, right? And then a lot of seniors are afraid of, they're not sure if it's feasible financially to make a change or not. So those are 4 of the largest barriers to making a change. So what are some tips for overcoming those barriers? I recommend that folks talk to friends who already done what they're thinking about doing. Oh, our screen just went crazy, didn't it? They should gather information on what other options look like we're doing today. Talk to family, ask for their help. Okay, so senior living options. Oh. All right, So we have aging in place, we have right sizing, and we have senior living communities. So aging in place, the questions that folks need to ask themselves is staying in my home manageable, physically, financially? So that question is, does it make sense to stay in my home? Is my home safe for me to age in place? And that's the question of, are there stairs in my home? Is the master bedroom on the first floor? Is the bathroom set up well? Do I feel safe in my home? Am I in a good neighborhood? Is my home set up for me to age in place? Is the layout conducive to staying there? And then last but not least, the social part of it. Am I getting out and spending time with people and doing things I enjoy? So again, the isolation piece. So aging in place, important part of the conversation and deciding what to do. So what are the barriers? If someone wants to stay at home and there's some issues with staying at home, what are the things that a person could do? Talk to their financial advisor, get some advice on what their financial resources look like. Hire people to come in and help manage the household. Get help for the yard and get help with cleaning and laundry. Have their home modified for safety. Get a security and a call button so that you know that you can call for help when you need help and know that your house is secure. Get non-medical in-home assistance. That's like seniors helping seniors or those types of non-medical home assistance. So folks who want to age in place, who have homes that maybe needs some little tweaks, can get some assistance to stay and age in place. So right sizing into a smaller home is another option. The folks can still age in place, but perhaps get into a smaller home. So that would look like maybe moving to a condo. If you're still in the family home where you raised your family, maybe moving into a smaller apartment type place, a patio home, a ranch style home, a one level type home, or a 55 plus community. We have a lot of those in Northern Colorado now. They have lots of beautiful amenities and social activities. So that's another option, another way to age in place, but move down into a smaller home rather than the large family home. So the next option is to right size into a senior living community. And there's basically 3 types of senior living communities: independent living, assisted living, and memory care. For independent living, we're looking at apartments, we're looking at patio homes, and perhaps even single family homes. And most of them start at $2,000 a month and up. Now, one of the challenges when you're looking at senior living is it's hard to compare apples to apples because each community offers different services and different benefits for living with them. Some independent living communities have kitchens, some have kitchenettes. Some independent living communities include meals, some include meal credits, some don't have meals at all. So it just kind of depends on the community. Usually water and electricity and utilities are included. Activities are on site. What may or may be available is meal service, housekeeping and laundry service, off-site trips, and transportation to medical doctors. Again, it really, in independent living, it's very different from community to community. For assisted living, we're usually looking at studio apartments to 2-bedroom apartments. There are some that have 3-bedroom apartments. $3,000 a month is usually the starting place, plus cares. And cares are activities of daily living. That's assistance that an individual get on an individual basis. So that $3,000 is covering the room and board, just the apartment and the meals. Now with assisted living, it's always going to cover your meals and your room, that base price. That's the one thing that you know for sure that's going to cover. Now, how they charge for activities of daily living is going to be different from community to community. So ADLs, activities of daily living, are things such as dressing and bathing and toileting and medication management. With assisted living, usually you get a kitchenette. As I said, meals are included. Housekeeping is included. There are activities on site, laundry may be included, transportation, and off-site trips. So assisted living is usually, sometimes seniors move in that don't need any help with any physical care, but maybe they've been diagnosed with a health issue that they know that down the road they're going to need more help. So they move into assisted living knowing that down the road they're going to need help with activities of daily living. Or folks that need help right now with activities of daily living move into assisted living. So it just it's I see them as senior living opportunities with care care available 24/7 is how I see assisted living. Then we have memory care, which is assisted living, is specialized assisted living. And with memory care, you usually have studio apartments or small one-bedroom apartments. In Northern Colorado, it really starts about $4,000 a month. It's everything that assisted living has, but is a secure unit. And that's for the protection of someone with dementia or Alzheimer's who is exit seeking. So they can't just walk out the door. And that's important. If you know anybody that has that wanders, the last thing you want is your loved one to be exit seeking and to get lost. And so memory care communities do have a secure unit, and so that you know that your loved one's not going to be exiting the community. And then last but not least, skilled nursing facility are communities for those who don't qualify for assisted living, and their health needs are too high. They're more medical needs, and it's the nursing home, it's more nursing needs. And that's the next level above assisted living. So what are the barriers? How can we remove barriers to right sizing? Again, talking to your financial advisor, because these are decisions that could affect your estate and your finances. Contacting your realtor to talk about selling your home, and because a lot of individuals use the monies from their home to finance their senior living. Talking to a senior living advisor to talk about your options, trying to figure out what makes sense, looking at both the long term and the short term, what are your needs now and what are your needs in the future, and picking a community based on those two things, not just on what you need now, but on both things, so that you make a decision that will last you, for hopefully to end of life. And then enlist your family to take things from your home prior to beginning to disperse your household items elsewhere. Get their help in making a decision on where things go. That's probably one of the hardest things I find with my clients is moving out of their family home, is getting rid of their memories. And one of the things, we've seen families take pictures of their collectibles and put them in an album as a way to preserve those things that they've collected through the years, and then give them away. So that's a fun idea for doing that. And then if downsizing your household's overwhelming for you, hire an organizer or downsizer to assist you. I really recommend that. It is a big chore, downsizing a home. So if you don't have family that can help you with that, find a local individual to help you do that process. So the big picture, there's two things to consider when it's time for a change. And as I said earlier, long-term needs. Do you have medical diagnoses, that you need to consider? What are your financial resources? What is your income? What are your assets? What are your investments? Do you have long-term care? Do you have an insurance policy that you could use to help pay for long-term senior living? Medicaid spend down, that's another thing to look at. If you have a limited amount of money, there are some communities that take Medicaid and InnovAge. And so there's a process that you can do to move into assisted living and do a spend down. Long-term care insurance, if you have long-term care insurance, it's important to kind of look at that and see where that fits in the picture. And then if you're a wartime veteran or a spouse of a wartime veteran, the VA has the aid attendance pension. So that's another thing to look at for financing senior living. So give me a sec here. Two things to avoid when it's time for a change. And the first one's the internet. And if you're not careful, you can get caught up with there's two marketing companies, very aggressive marketing companies online, that when you go online and you click for more information, you'll get a phone call and they start to inundate. They'll send your phone number to every community in the area, and you'll start to be inundated by phone calls. So the internet can be tricky. Unless you know for sure that you're calling the community that you're trying to call, you have to be very careful with the internet. We really recommend that you call a local senior advisor that you know that lives that works in the area that you're looking to move into. that knows the area. So I really, if you want to look at the internet for just some ideas, that's great. But find a local senior advisor to work with you. And then secondly, relying exclusively on the counsel of friends and family to help you find senior living. I have met many families who have been really done the runaround, going to different communities in northern Colorado because their neighbors said that they thought that was a great community. And it's not that that wasn't a great community, it just wasn't a good fit for them. Most friends and family don't know all the details of a person's particulars, like their financials and their needs. And so when friends tell someone that XYZ community is a great community, they should go check it out, they don't know for sure it's a good fit for you. So I really recommend that you find a local senior advisor. As I told you when we first started, is that we don't charge anything for our services, and most of the local senior advisors in the area don't. So you know, it's you get someone that's working on your side to help you look for options in the area. So it's a win-win, really. So we really recommend you take control of the process, that you get your documents in order, your wills, your trusts, your powers of attorney, medical powers, attorneys, and medical directives, legal, financial, and health information all in one place. It's really important. You know, none of us know, you know, when our health is going to change. And if you have your documents in order, your family will be very grateful. Start looking at your options, thinking about your options. Develop a plan and share your plan with your family. We find that oftentimes that folks are just really resistant to talking to their family about, you know, the future and aging and dying. And quite frankly, it's one of the best things we can do for our loved ones is to share what our wishes are. And then last but not least, get professional assistance where needed. You know, from attorneys to care managers to realtors, there are people out in our community who do full-time, you know, the things that we need. And so instead of trying to piece things together, it just makes sense to get help when you need help. So that's pretty much what I have for you today. And I really apologize for the technical difficulties. We are mailing out a senior living swag packet. So if you're interested in that, I invite you to either call me directly on my phone line or email me, and then to check out our website at slacolo.com. Thank you really for your patience. Technical problems are never fun. And I think Al is going to take a few questions if you guys have any.
Yes, thank you, Danita. Your presentation, you've done them before, and they're terrific and they're extremely informative. I will start the questioning. You had mentioned that you know, your services are free. How are you compensated though? Do you do what some of the others do when you place somebody? There's a compensation back from the location. How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're like brokers. Yeah, the communities pay us out of their marketing funds for our referrals. Yeah, so we have agreements. But the other thing is most of us are, I know I will work with communities who don't pay me. So I do a lot of work pro bono where I don't get paid, and I'm okay with that as well, quite honestly.
That's really incredibly good of you to do that. And it sounds like there's a lot of people in the industry who are like that just want to help people as well. What would you say are the biggest changes that you've seen since the pandemic in terms of housing or in terms of demand? Anything that you've seen that you could point out?
I don't know. It seems well, you know, for the whole year that it, people only moved into senior living that really needed to move into senior living. It was more people stayed home during COVID, right? Like people didn't move into senior living because they were lonely. People stayed home. So people who are really sick moved into senior living. So that was different, right? Because before that, you know, maybe someone would lose their husband and they would be lonely and they'd move into senior living because it was like easier to be in senior living to be alone. But we're seeing that change again. Like it's been a really busy few months. Folks the senior livings have opened back up again. They're getting back to normal. I think there's still the communities are still very cautiously letting people in. It's, you know what I mean? Like we're still doing the COVID, the light COVID thing. Um, but people are starting to COVID has taken a toll on our older population. Loneliness has I just think it's just really become an epidemic with our senior population. And now people who are lonely are moving to senior communities because loneliness is a pretty hard thing. You know, it's that
Yeah,
isolation.
part of the reason I asked the question was because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, all senior living centers were so impacted because of their age groups by COVID, much more so than many others. And then I would think that there's a tremendous amount of pent up demand at this point, where people that wanted to maybe make that move, that for all the reasons that you pointed out in your presentation, um, have didn't do it because of the pandemic. And now that vaccinations have occurred at very high levels in the senior age groups, that there must be tremendous amounts of pent up uh, demand out there for really every senior level of living.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the communities are seeing, I mean, the, yeah, they're seeing an inflow of people, most certainly. And
So
I
so
think,
so
go ahead.
what's the vacancy levels like? Are they pretty much full, and there's going to be more building that has to happen to accommodate especially levels of independent care or independent living rather than care?
Well, I think there's always an influx of people coming and going, right? There's folks that
Mhm.
move out of state, there's folks that are moving to different levels of care. So I think it's going to get back to normal. I think we're just going to see the normalcy. There's always going to be more senior living needed with the boomers turning, I mean, I'm seeing numbers that I think in the next 20 years the numbers are going to double the number of seniors that need housing. So by virtue of just the age, that the need is growing, right? Like, so we're going to need to build more senior communities just because of the baby boomers.
Yeah,
Of it,
and I
of
would
it
I
needing.
would think too that we also have such tremendously rapidly rising values in Colorado because of the short supply and high demand for housing, that this might be a really good time for people to start looking at, hey, maybe I wasn't considering, maybe I was thinking about aging in place, and I wasn't so much looking at independent living communities, but housing prices have risen so rapidly, some as much as 10 to 15 and 20% in a year. And there's such high demand that there's bidding wars on almost everything that's being sold. This might be a very, very good time for people to take a serious look at independent living communities, options, wherever they might be.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Um, and uh, the last question that I would have is, when people I know you've done conversations about this in the past. People that decide to live in their homes. Um, the statistics are pretty much overwhelming about the number of falls that happen after the age of 65. And so, maybe you could just talk for a minute about how important it is to recognize that, and work through exercise and your doctor and therapists who can help identify those opportunities in your home, because staying in place does have some risks associated with falls.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't know, I think we're all kind of stubborn, right? I don't know.
I am.
I, me too. I don't want to say, you know, yeah, I mean, so I say that most anyone wanting to age in place should have someone walk through their home and point out like the obvious safety risk. And you'd be surprised the things I've seen. Like, there was a 90-something-year-old woman with no smoke detector in her home, and I think her son-in-law was a fireman. And I'm like, how do you have a fireman in your family and no smoke detector in your home? Like, seriously, like That's a basic, right? Or she had a dress that was hanging in the hallway with plastic that went to the floor that was a tripping hazard. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that dress has been hanging there for years." And I'm like, "Well, the plastic is on the floor and she can trip and fall on it. Maybe we should just hang it in the closet and shut the door." So the thing is like, yeah, I think it's very wise for folks to have someone come in and do a walkthrough. Because with aging in place comes a responsibility to age in place well and get help, right? And that's what I was saying. It's like, so if you want to stay at home and your washer and dryer's in the basement, you might need to get someone to come in and do your laundry. I mean, like, we've got to let go of some control and get some help, right? Because you're going to have to spend money somewhere. Either you're going to have to spend money to move to assisted living, or you're going to have to spend some money to get some help, or you're going to have, right? And fix your bathroom so that you have the safety bars and the toilet that's the right height. So that's a great point, because you got to spend the money one way or the other, right?
And you're
Have it.
right. My mom is 91, and she was living independently until a few months ago, and now she's living with my sister. And even that move was tough on her emotionally. So
Yeah.
there's that part. If you don't have a partner, that there is an emotional aspect of giving up that independent life that you've had, being able to come and go as you please and do what you want in your own home. And we finally, as all the kids said, it's time, Mom, to have a place. So those are really important things to start considering, and some earlier than others. I mean, we're fortunate. My mom's 91 and she's, still amazing. But, I've seen people in their 60s who are not even close to what my mom can do. And she's, and they're,
Right.
and they need to have make some of the decisions that you discussed today. So, um,
Right.
all
Well, and
really,
Al,
really
I think
important.
Well, and I think the thing that people have to remember too is, um, sometimes people, when they make the transition, they find that they wish they'd made it earlier. That it's not as bad, and it's not a prison. I literally was speaking to a gentleman recently, and he was asking me all these questions like, "Well, can I do this and can I do that?" And I laughingly said to him, I said, "You're not going to prison." Like, I mean, I was teasing with him because he was that kind of guy. It's really not a prison. It's just another way of it's another way of living, and it's not, you're free, you have new freedoms and a new way of living, that really you have more freedom because you have support to be safe and healthy in an environment where you're supported. Do you know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
can
I
still
do. And,
drink.
and,
I mean,
and and the options are so great with transportation availability in many of the senior living,
yeah,
independent senior living locations, and food and
yeah,
activities and friendships. Because the biggest thing that the pandemic caused, and you mentioned it, is isolation. And
yeah,
even young people felt tremendous isolation during that time
yeah,
period, and older
yeah,
people much worse. So
right,
these are all crucial now that we're coming out of the pandemic, to make sure that we're really using your advice to
yeah,
determine what's the right decisions for either yourself or you and your spouse.
yeah.
So I don't see any other questions. I just want to say, Danita, Nixon, thank you so much for your presentation. I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but the information is so important, and your services are wonderful. And I highly encourage anybody who's got these questions to contact Danita, because she's got great experience, and obviously the personality to really help and make people feel comfortable. So with that, I will close down this session, and welcome everybody back tomorrow, same time, same channel. And also make sure that you spend some time visiting our expo. There's a lot of really terrific partners on there that can provide a lot of information across the spectrum, that's impacting this group. So appreciate it. Thank you, Danita. It was wonderful seeing you again, and hearing your presentation. And we'll look forward to it again in the future.
Thanks, Al. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye bye.